Nets fan? Who's a Nets fan?
An X-Men.
Oh.
I'm a big dude, and you don't grow up in the South without playing a sport if you have some God-given size. So that, whether he wanted to or not, he was going to be an athlete. So we vibe on that level.
I was really lucky. When I got the audition, it opens with that song, and I was like, well, I know that song. So I just picked up my guitar and I played it in the audition.
They are both sort of the voice of pragmatism and often offering the smartest advice in the room, whether it's heated or not. I think what makes Barney a real strong departure is that he's nowhere near as calm and cool and collected as Chow.
You ever look at something you've been staring at for so long, you suddenly realize you stopped seeing it a long time ago?
It's not yours if you can't keep it.
What'd you get up to last night? Oh, not much.
I'm a big fan of both of you, and I think it's kind of unfair that the two of you continue to get...
Which one of us first?
Who do you like more?
Which one?
Who do I like more?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not fair. I would say that one of you was an X-Man, and the other one of you was in one of my favorite shows ever. And I'm not going to go any further than that.
An X-Men.
Oh.
What's your favorite show ever? Studio 60?
Actually, Togetherness is one of my favorite shows.
Oh, thank you.
And it's a phenomenal performance. Amanda, you're so good in that show. I do like it's not fair. I'll go, both of you are in fantastic shows, but this is maybe the best performance that each of you has done, I think, in your career yet. You're both phenomenal here.
This is exciting.
It is.
From somebody who loves us both.
Who doesn't love you both? That's a tough question.
A lot of people.
I disagree, but I will ask you, Amanda, there's multiple sequences building through the series where your character is kind of coming to terms with the decisions and the past and everything that you've kind of thought through in all of this. What's harder, doing that or just letting go and keying a car?
Keying the car is easier.
Easier?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do it, but I can't bring myself to do it. And it just kind of looks very freeing to do that. Did you find that moment, there was moments with this character that just she's gonna pop if she doesn't let these things out?
Yeah, I like that idea. And I think, especially for a woman to combat her, suburban ennui or whatever you want to call it, in such a kind of violent and visceral way. I thought it was really fun.
And Olivia, for you in playing this character, I think that there's never not been a time where people enjoy watching rich people behave badly. Mm-hmm. And I think on this show, Sam is neither of these characters is really a bad person. That's what I really like about it. Do you think that Sam inherently is a good person, or do you think that there's something underlying that she's trying to come to terms with?
I think Sam is inherently a good person, but her priorities are all wrong. I mean, the reason why she's even in this neighborhood, this friend group, is because she married for money. She was looking for a guy who had money. She married this man who had money, had 2 children with him, and all she wanted was to be able to have the big house, drive the fancy car, wear the Cartier love bracelets, have the Goyard purses, have all those things that she saw everybody else having. And it wasn't because she was doing it with love. It was just all superficial and short-sightedness. And I think that there's something about her that is really scrappy. Now, she wanted all of that, right? She married for money for all those reasons, but she's still a good person. It's just from how she was brought up, that was success. That's what she learned early on. If you have money, then you are successful and you are happy. And she quickly realizes in this marriage that does not equal happiness. So the interesting thing I think with Sam was that she's a big schemer, and she will do anything she can to make sure that she and her family are taken care of first. I mean, anything. She will do anything. Don't sleep on Sam.
Both of you are awesome in this show. I love it so much. Can't wait for everybody to check it out. Thank you so much for your time
Thank
today.
you so much.
Thank you so much.
Mark, I gotta ask you about this character that you really get kind of shit on for the first couple of episodes here. Like, they are
Thank you
just
for that.
Yeah.
Correct.
You're welcome. And I don't know what's more. I mean, obviously, Nick is in a situation where he's guilty of something that happens, and there's that feeling of guilt. He's trying to kind of get past it and move on. But every opportunity that Coop has, he's just kind of like digging it in there.
Yep.
Is that really hard to play the character just showing that restraint through that kind of situation?
Thank you for that question. That's because it's true. It is difficult to play, particularly with someone like Jon Hamm, who I've grown to love and respect very much so as an actor and as, you know, just an acquaintance and friend at this point. Because, you know, someone like himself, he comes on set. He's super funny. I've been telling everyone he's funnier than you even know. Really likable. We also have athletic backgrounds that we share. You know, he's a big dude from the South. I'm a big dude, and you don't grow up in the South without playing a sport if you have some God-given size. So that, whether he wanted to or not, he was going to be an athlete. So we vibe on that level. So to, once the camera's rolling, just have him, like you said, just shit on me every time. As difficult as it is, I think it makes it easier to play the character, because there's a reality that lives within me as the actor where I'm just like, okay.
I hate to disappoint.
All right. You know, just continue to say, yes, you're right, no matter how wrong it feels. And I think my athletic background makes that easier to play as well, because as an athlete, you face highs and lows, wins and losses on almost a daily basis, or even a minute-to-minute basis, where you miss a shot or you miss a tackle, and then you better make the next shot or you better make the next tackle. I think having been forced to do that as a former athlete myself made it that much easier to infuse into the character, where yes, you made a huge mistake, but you're trying to win back that friendship that still means as much to you as it did, if not more, than it did before you did this terrible thing.
And Aimee, I spoke to you a while back about the consultant, and between the consultant and then the menu and then this, these are so different, but it's just the range that you show in these performances is really impressive. And I love this character so much, because when you're watching the beginning, it's fun to watch Jon Hamm breaking into people's houses and doing this stuff, but Elena is just a very opposite kind of story that comes into it. And as it develops, like, how did it feel bringing this character into the story, since she's not there at the very beginning?
Yeah, thank you for that wonderful compliment. Range is what I strive for. But, you know, and I think when I got this, I was like, oh, I got to do it. But I think with, I think Elena comes at a really kind of crucial moment, because you've gotten to know this world, right, of this, you know, super wealthy group of people, and then you kind of have a little clue into the other side of things with the character of Lou Varga and the pawn shop and all this stuff. But then you get to a tier that is maybe the tier that is holding up the top tier, right? It's like they've got the secrets. They're the secret keepers. They're the lifestyle suppliers. You know what I mean? Someone's got to keep the pool clean. Someone's got to do this and that. And I think with Elena, she exists in this space where the audience can relate to her in a way, but at the same time, she's ruthless. She gets this opportunity she's been waiting for probably forever, and she's not going to she's not going to pass it up, and she will blackmail someone in order to, to do that. And so to me, it felt like a nice drink of water to be able to play this character in a world where she doesn't really fit in, but at the same time, she holds a lot of power, she holds a lot of cards because she knows how it ticks, and she brings a lot of value to the relationship with Coop because, he would have stolen that NBA championship ring and then tried to pawn it off, and they would have found him immediately. You know what I mean? So she brings a level of street smarts that I think Coop, by virtue of just not having to have those street smarts, with his lifestyle, she brings a lot of value to that relationship.
Awesome. Well, you're both fantastic. This series would not be as good without the two of you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh,
That's so
lovely to
nice.
say.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
How are the kids? Oh, they're fine. Wife? Ex-wife.
Well, I gotta deliver some bad news. You're fired.
What?
Really, really love this show. And the three of you, I think, may be some of the most identifiable characters in this entire series. And Lena, I wanted to start with you. Your character has got a lot going on. Everything from the very beginning, there's a lot going on. But there's a line, I think it was in episode 7, where you pick up Coop in the car and you tell him, I told them you didn't do it. I don't think you did it. But even if you did, you're still the only person I've got. It's like such a loving, really nice moment. What was it like, kind of identifying that sibling relationship?
It was great. I am a sister. I'm a little sister. I have an older sister. She's 5 years older. So I'm really familiar with that kind of dynamic. And it's true. It's like there's a lot of judgment that happens between siblings. But at the end of the day, no matter what choice they make and no matter what they do, it's like, I've got your back forever because no matter what, we have each other. And that's what's really important. So the relationship between Allie and Andy is basically kind of like the blood heart of the show, and it really shows Andy and some of his most vulnerable moments because he loves his sister so much, and he knows her limitations, but also she's like 100% on his side no matter what happens.
And Isabel, speaking of that kind of emotional response to all these different things, there's a very different dynamic for your character between your mom and dad on the show. Was that something that did you have to figure out how to play that? Because it's a really kind of contentious relationship that you have with both of them in this.
It is. I think I feel like it's almost a part of the teenage experience, feeling misunderstood by your parents. And I feel like she's really craving just more. She's craving that stability and just has that hunger to be close to her family. And I think.
And Donovan, for you, there's, as a parent of 2 teenage boys, there's a line when in one of the early episodes when you're drumming and you say to your mom, it's like, I guess it doesn't really feel all much that different than it was before. And it's like a gut punch moment, but you deliver it so calmly. Was it kind of challenging to restrain emotions in those scenes and just play it as more subdued, or how did you figure out how to act that out?
Well, that's kind of how I crafted the whole character, Hunter. Just that I think for so many years he's kind of just been crushing all of the pain and emotions, just trying to forget about it and subdue it. And I think that's kind of just an example of one of the moments when he's doing that.
And Lena, that the performance of Radiohead towards the beginning, was that all you? Because that was fantastic.
Yes, yeah. So
that was really good.
I was really lucky. When I got the audition, it opens with that song, and I was like, well, I know that song. So I just picked up my guitar and I played it in the audition, and ended up booking the show. But what's interesting is that the character is so much like me in my regular life that is very little acting. It's just kind of like me being myself. So so all the music stuff is really cool, and I'm so glad that they weaved so much of that into the character, is something that was so important and kind of pivotal for her and who she really is. It makes her very three-dimensional, and also it highlights a talent of mine that, not a lot of TV people know about, but that I get to release into the world and have my songs out there. So it's very cool.
Awesome. Well, all three of you really do have really three-dimensional characters here. It's a fantastic series. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Hoon, I want to start. You were so awesome in Warrior, and that series is just one of my favorites.
Thank you.
This could not be more different of a character and a role compared to that. How did you come into this? Was Jonathan just like, I need you to be this character? How did you kind of get into this role?
Jonathan had mentioned this show as he was developing it. He has done me the honor of writing a few characters with me in mind. I think in some levels there's more similarity between Chow and Barney than one might suspect. They're both sort of fixers in their way. They're facilitators. They are both sort of the voice of pragmatism and often offering the smartest advice in the room, whether it's heated or not. I think what makes Barney a real strong departure is that he's nowhere near as calm and cool and collected as Chow. He doesn't have all the right answers. He doesn't have the self-possession to just, roll with every punch. There's a lot more anxiety and neuroses there, which makes him much more like a real person and much more like a person one might encounter in our world. But for those things, he's incredibly fun. And I've been extremely fortunate that Jonathan tends to write characters that I get to play who are very witty. They're sort of big-hearted as well in their own way. And, I can't say there's anyone really luckier than me in this sort of production.
Barney's always one breath away from aneurysm.
Yeah, he's close.
And Eunice, for you, I don't know if you agree, are these two characters the best, quote unquote, people in this cast, like the most decent human beings, or do you think that they're just the best couple?
I think they've definitely, decided long ago that they were going to be a team. And I think that is what gives them their strength of character, is that they're always looking out for someone, when two people are putting the other person's happiness, as top of mind, everybody wins. And I think they've decided that long ago. And that basically emotionally so much of their needs are met with each other that a lot of people don't have. And that therefore they have the emotional and mental capacity to do more, to think better, to treat other people better because of how they are emotionally fed at home.
There's a scene in a hospital scene later in the series where the two of you are having a little moment, and it's these little moments that I love, but there's a line where Hoon, you say to her, you say, did you make this, when she's giving you some food? She goes, no, of course I didn't make this. And there's just like this naturalness between these two characters. Did you find working together was very easy and simple to kind of make these characters feel authentic?
Yeah, that was actually, we didn't have scripted lines for that scene. And personally, I think they cut out my funniest line.
Oh, yeah?
Which was, you said, did you make this? And I said, of course not. But then I said, I would never do that to you. Yeah. But we have the trust of our showrunner and that the director for that episode, Greg Utanis, who, we're both pretty familiar with, they just let us explore our characters in those quiet moments and just be, which is really nice.
Well, you're both so fantastic in this show, and I'm a big proponent of spinoffs, so if we can get a Ray Donovan style spinoff for the two of you, I would love it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Your lips.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd been thinking. These houses have all this stuff no one would miss for a while, if ever.
Rich guy loses his big job, has liquidity problems, turns to petty crime. That's not savvy, that's stupidity.
Maybe it's just desperation.
That's the first honest thing you've said. I'll give you 65 for it.
Big fan of Warrior. That was just such a phenomenal series, and Banshee is a phenomenal series. This could not be more different than either one of those. This is such a unique approach to telling this type of tale, and at first watching it, I'm like, Jon Hamm drinking a lot of whiskey, wearing business suits. Is this a 2025 version of Mad Men? But I really like how different the character is, the great narration. Just where did this story come from?
Well, most people who enjoyed Banshee and Warrior weren't necessarily familiar with the novels I wrote before that, but my novels lived much more in this world.
Yes,
and
definitely.
when I got to Hollywood, nobody would let me write shows about this. Once I created Banshee, that became my fate for the next 10 years, which I'm not complaining about. I love that stuff, but this was the show I always really wanted to do, which was, to tell something a little more grounded in the world I came from. That's a little more of an exploration of something contemporary and relatable and doesn't have the trappings of genre around it to sell it, but, could really be a character-driven, a novelistic approach to storytelling. When I came out to do TV, I was really interested in shows like 6 Feet Under, and shows that really took an almost novelistic approach to storytelling. So I wanted to do that with this show.
And it's not new, but there is a fascination with shows about rich people behaving badly, whether it be Yellowstone or Succession, or even a comedy like The Righteous Gemstones. Why do you think people are so fascinated with watching these people just get their comeuppance?
I think there are two really strong human urges. One is aspiration and one is schadenfreude. And I think we watch with both admiration and contempt, and they coexist within us. And I think those are both really strong human impulses. That would be my guess. To me, whether you're writing about rich people or poor people or criminals or cops, you're writing about humanity and you're writing about human beings and relationships. And, you could imagine people in any one of those worlds making the same mistakes and dealing with similar emotional problems. It's just the sort of the clutter around it's very different.
In the first episode, it's obviously very different circumstances, but Jon Hamm falling into the pool and then the narration, very much Sunset Boulevard type vibes coming from that. What inspiration did you draw from films or TV shows in coming up with this?
Well, the voiceover really, to me, was more inspired by the film noir of the 60s. I was a big Philip Marlowe fan, especially the Robert Mitchum versions. And I just, and I read Dashiell Hammett and really just enjoying a kind of laconic, detached voiceover that seems to be coming from the future, but that also, rather than explaining plot points, actually adds texture and personality and tone to the show. Because I felt this was a show that lives or dies by its tone. And so I wanted Coop to be telling you the story in a way that also protected the tone.
And knowing that the series is going to be coming back, was this season, even though it's chapters almost like a novel, was this season the first book in a series of novels, or is this season more of chapter one in a whole novel?
No, I think it's chapter one. I think, whenever I sell a show, I usually have a pretty strong idea of at least a 3-season arc. And then, in great success, we'll figure out how to maybe start book 2 or expand that 3-season arc. But, I generally won't come in to sell a show if I don't see at least 3 seasons.
Awesome. Well, I hope it's 3 seasons or more. It's fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo remains an independent company, and we appreciate all of your support.